If you're trying to decide what size you should use for your children's book, you have come to the right place. Hi there, I'm Eevi, an award-winning children's author and ghostwriter over on eevijones.com and the creator of Children's Book University. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 things that will help you find the perfect size for your children's book. And in the end, I will also share with you how to create a template that is the exact size you need to create your illustrations in based on the size you decide to use for your children's book, and that you can then share with your illustrator so he or she knows the exact size and dimensions for each of your illustrations. Now, the reason I created this quick video is because oftentimes aspiring children's authors approach their illustrator without already knowing what size they want to publish their book in. And I know because I get a lot of emails from frustrated authors that started the illustration process only to realize that the illustrations are not the right size or the right quality in terms of resolution. So not knowing the trim size we want our book to be in also means we don't know the illustration size, right? And that's a problem because it's usually this illustration step that costs aspiring children's book authors the most, both in terms of financial resources as well as time. So often do I see others hire an illustrator prematurely, and it's such an exciting moment because that's when we see our stories' characters come to life, right? But that's also why we rush into this. So before we go out and commission an artist, let's have a plan and figure out what size your book should be in and what size your illustrations should be in, because having a plan will make this process so much easier and a lot smoother and so much more enjoyable. So let's look at the 3 things that will help you decide what size your own children's book should be in. Number 1, the first thing I always recommend my students and clients to do is look at similar books on Amazon, or if you have the time, in the library. And you will want to see what format other books are using, that are similar to the book you are writing or have written. Have they chosen a square format? Are they vertical? Are they horizontal? What trim size are they using? And looking at other books like this is really useful because we want to follow the already established standard so our book fits in and looks as professional as possible. Traditional publishers have spent a lot of time and resources figuring out what's working and what isn't, and what people prefer and like, and we can benefit from their knowledge gained over decades by studying books that are already out there and that are doing well. So let's say you have a middle grade chapter book. You can go to Amazon, find similar chapter books, and then what you can do is simply scroll down to the book's product details section, which is usually right above the reviews section. And that's where you will find the exact dimensions or the exact trim size of this particular book. And so what I would recommend is look at a number of different books that are similar to yours, and then for each, write down that trim size just so you can compare and hopefully start seeing a pattern of which sizes are most common. Number 2. Now, one of the things that goes hand in hand with the trim size you choose is the age group your book is meant for. That is the second thing that will help you decide what size your own children's book should be in. You will want to ask yourself how old your target audience is. And if you don't know the age group you should write your book for, I've added a link below to a quick quiz you can take on my site that will help you with this decision. Now, besides board books for babies that are usually very small, we generally see that the trim size used for books for younger kids are usually larger. And the trim size for books for middle grade and up is usually smaller, more the size of a regular novel. Now, while there is common and less common, there is no right or wrong. So again, using already published books as a guideline is a great way to go about this. So just like I mentioned earlier, looking at other similar books comes into play and is really important. So when you're over on Amazon to look at the trim sizes of similar books, look and see what the age groups those books are for. I love using Amazon for this because they make it really easy to find the age group, which is currently located right below the book description if you are on a computer. So when you're doing your research and write down the trim sizes of similar books, go ahead and also look at these books' age range and write that down as well. Number 3, the third thing I look at when deciding what trim size to use for my children's books is the printing platform I plan on using. Here I want to check and make sure that the printer offers the trim size I want to use. Or if I don't know what size I want yet, I want to at least check and see what trim sizes are available. Now, this might seem obvious, but I include it here because it is incredibly disheartening that when you are ready to upload your book and you realize that they don't offer the size you prepared your book in. Believe me, this happened to me and my very first children's book in 2013 and almost caused me to give up on my dream of publishing it. Now, if you know me or have listened to any of my interviews or have purchased my book, How to Self-Publish a Children's Book, you know that I personally use print-on-demand printers or PODs, P-O-D. And that's what I teach and share with my clients and students and readers as well. And the two pods I am using and also recommend are Amazon KDP and Ingram Spark. Now, at the time of the making of this video, KDP does not offer the trim size I usually use for my hardcover versions of my books. So I currently use Ingram Spark for all my hardcovers. This may change once KDP offers more trim sizes for their hardcovers, but for now, because I have to use two different printing platforms, I will also have to make sure that both platforms offer the trim size I want. Because otherwise, you may create so much extra work for yourself when you have to format your book for two different trim sizes. That's just not necessary and may also confuse potential buyers when they see your paperback in a square format, for example, but then see your hardcover with a vertical format with portrait orientation, for example. Now, these things we just looked at, looking at similar books, looking at the age your book is for, and then looking at the available sizes your printer offers, they may seem like three separate options to look at to help you decide what trim size to choose for your book. But what I encourage you to do is try to make sure that whatever trim size you decide to go with works with all three across the board. Now, what do I mean by that? It means that you will want to do the research and find the most common format or trim size for your type of book based on similar books, as I shared with you in step 1. It also means you will also want to make sure that your findings are congruent with the trim size usually used for your chosen age group. And it means you want to make sure that your research trim size is also available on the printing platforms of your choice. And if you're planning to use multiple printing platforms like me, make sure that all of them offer your selected trim size. And if you base your chosen trim size for your book on what I just shared with you, you are more than halfway there, my friend, because I know how hard it can often be to make that decision. Now, once you know the perfect and best size for your children's book, you may now wonder how to figure out the illustration size for each of your pages, the size you need to share with your illustrator so he or she knows the exact dimensions needed to create your illustrations. And that step from knowing my trim size of the book to determining what size my illustrations will have to be in was something I had a really hard time with my first children's book, because trim size does not necessarily equal the size of your illustrations. The size of your illustrations depends on a number of things, such as whether you want your illustrations to go all the way to the edge of the page, which is called with bleed, or whether it's a spot illustration or something with margins on the side, or whether your illustration is meant to cover a single page or extend across the entire spread, the left and the right side. And because this can be tricky at times, I've created the illustration template generator tool that will do all that for you. It will do all the calculations for you and will create a downloadable template you can share with your illustrator. This tool is absolutely free to use, and you can find it over on my website, eevijones.com. And I'll also add the link to the description below. And I created it because it's something I wish I would have had access to with my very first children's book. It works for both the KDP and the Ingram Spark printing platform, as well as for the illustration sizes for the cover of your book, because those sizes are very different from the page sizes as well. I really hope you found this helpful and that it answered any questions you may have had about the size you should choose for your children's book. And I hope that my illustration template generator will make the creation of your beautiful children's book so much easier and so much fun. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't yet, and happy creating. Bye.